Sploosh! I love that. Welcome back. My name is Alpha Mike 1. Today I'm going to show you my automatic potato and carrot farm. Most of the automatic farms that you see require 2 villagers, and one of them has to be a farmer. The advantages to this is you only need 1 villager, and it can be any brown coat. Doesn't have to be a farmer, so a Fletcher or a fisherman will work just fine. Here's my egg timer, which is the brains of this operation. After this chicken lays 6 eggs, which is approximately 30 minutes, the field will be auto-harvested and the farmer gets his inventory refilled. And then the timer set back to 0 and he goes off to planting the next field, next harvest. Alright, so let's start with a build. I'm going to go 4 high just to leave us a little room underneath the field. And then we'll go at 4 in all directions. And then we'll knock out that center block. That's where the hopper is going to go. And we'll fill in the corners. So now we're left with a 9x9 field with a drain in the center. We'll put that hopper down 1 or down 2, I guess, and we'll have to crouch to put a half slab on top of that. Reason for the half slab is the farmer is going to wind up on that, and when he comes out of that, I don't want him to have to jump and detail the soil. And then we'll put water pockets on each of the 4 cardinal positions, and that'll hydrate the entire field. And then we'll surround it with a 2-high solid block wall. In my case, I'm using stained glass just because it looks cool. Want to use a solid block rather than a fence. Sometimes the potatoes can get caught up if in that empty space if I surround it with a fence. So that's why I choose full blocks. Now in each corner, 3 high, facing down, I'm going to put a dispenser, and that's how we're going to flush it. And then I want to fill in each of the 4 corners. Reason being, if there's a farmer in one of those corners when it flushes, it'll make him bounce and he could detail the soil. With these blocks 3 high above it, that'll keep him from bouncing. So now all we need is a brown coat. Not the brown coat. You are not the brown coat. You, sir, are the brown coat. So now I want to fill his inventory. He has a hidden inventory. He can hold 8 full stacks. In this case, we're going to fill it with potatoes so that he has plenty of seeds to sow. Yeah, we'll go with that. If you're wondering how you're going to get yourself a brown coat, I have a zombie villager curing station. So I have an unlimited supply of these guys, and I'll cover that in a later video. And he won't pick those up, so we know he's full. Swing. Now we'll just till the soil so he can start planting. Notice he's a Fletcher. Does not have to be a farmer. Check him out. He's planting. That's kind of the heart of this whole thing. He will plant. When it comes to potatoes and carrots, he will plant, but he will not harvest. He will sow, but he will not reap. Getting all biblical on you now. So I'm going to make these fully grown so you'll see that he will not touch these suckers. But that's not a big deal because I can easily make an auto-harvesting field. The part that I can't automate is replanting. So that's where my buddy Fletcher comes in. I just named him. His name is Fletcher. And that is the field in a nutshell. So now I'm going to work backwards a little bit. I want to power each of these dispensers. I need to replace this glass with solid blocks because I can't put redstone on top of them. Then I'll just put in a staircase so that I can run a redstone signal from what will be the ground level, where the egg timer will be, up to my dispensers. And the only thing to know here is that I need to crouch when I'm putting a redstone dust on top of the dispenser. Now I'm counting backwards to check how far the signal will travel, and what I'm coming up with is that I just need to put a repeater on either side of this first redstone dust, and that's just to ensure that the signal will be strong enough to reach that last dispenser. So now we get to the core of our timer, and what that is a comparator that you're looking at there. And think of a comparator as a fuel gauge. It will tell me how full a container is. In this case, it'll be the hopper that's going to be holding the eggs the chicken's laying. When I fill it up with 5 stacks of 16 eggs, I get a full strength signal. That's 15 blocks of redstone. And as I empty it, you see the signal's getting weaker or shorter. And that'll be 1 stack. And then if I empty it completely, you get 0 signal. So the output reflects the percentage of how full that container is. In this case, when I lay 1 egg, it'll send a signal to that first redstone block. When I lay the 6th egg, the chicken lays the 6th egg, it'll send a signal to that second redstone dust. And we're going to take advantage of that. That's going to be the basis of how our timer is going to work. So again, working backwards, let's put a repeater going into that first stair. And then that will send the signal up those steps, up to our dispensers. And then we'll go back 2 redstone dust and put our comparator. And the comparator is going to read our hopper. This is going to be the hopper that the chicken's going to lay eggs in. And then the hopper below is just going to be a conduit that's going to drain the eggs off into this chest right here. Notice those are facing sideways. That's very important. I'll explain that here in a second. So now when the chicken lays eggs and lays its 6th egg, it's going to make that signal go all the way to that repeater, which will go up the steps, and then along that line to power those dispensers. And now we just need to work on our delay. There's going to need to be a second signal going to those dispensers that turns the water off. So coming off of that second redstone dust, I'm going to make a loop. And this is basically just a delay. So it's going to be a series of repeaters coming off to the side of that second redstone dust. And then I'm going to set them to max delay. And again, both of these repeaters are going to get their signal at the same time, but since this loop is a bunch of repeaters set at max delay, that's going to cause a second signal to go into that block, that first step, about 10-12 seconds later. And that'll send a second signal in, and that will turn the dispensers off. Notice that the back side of that loop is on the other side of that repeater. So the signal goes in on one side of that repeater and then comes out on the other side of the repeater. If I had that loop on the same side of the repeater, I would wind up with an endless loop there, which I don't want. So now chicken lays an egg, and that should send a signal, but it doesn't work. So here my first obstacle is I need that top hopper to hold 6 eggs. And I need it to hold them until I decide that I need to drain it. So what I'm going to do is, if I send power, a redstone signal, to the hopper below, the bottom hopper, that will stop anything from leaving that top hopper. So that's how I'm going to have that top hopper hold my eggs until I'm ready for it to empty. And then I'm going to put 2 repeaters here on max delay, and we'll explain that here in a second. We're going to need that delay when it comes time to drain it. So now that bottom hopper is powered, So you notice when the chicken lays the egg, it'll stay in that top hopper, which is what I want. And then going back to the reason those hoppers are facing sideways, if they were both facing straight down, powering that bottom hopper will not stop that egg on the top hopper. I don't totally understand why that doesn't work, but it's just important for our purposes to know that we need to have those hoppers facing sideways. A little quick demonstration, and you see that stops there. And then I forgot to send power to that redstone torch. We're going to draw power off of that first step, and that'll send power to that redstone torch when we want to turn it off to drain the hopper. So let's do a quick demonstration and drop 6 eggs in there. And that completes the timer. So everything seems to be working just fine. There's always going to be 1 egg in there. That doesn't really affect anything though. So to drain this hopper, when the 6th egg gets laid, it's going to send the signal to that block, which will turn that torch off. And then with this delay, that's going to be, the power is going to be turned off just long enough to drain that hopper about halfway. Then meanwhile, our delay is going to be sending a 2nd signal to that block. And then that redstone repeater takes the power off that block, turning that torch off again. And that will finish draining the hopper. And then that's how we reset the egg timer. And then that takes us to our last little challenge. I want to make sure that that farmer or brown coat always has a full inventory. And the way that I'm going to do that is I am going to put a stopper on that middle drain so that when the field flushes, when it drains, I'm going to have all of the potatoes that have been harvested and the farmer sitting on that half slab at the same time. Since I'm going to have a stopper on that hopper, that farmer will be able to fill up his inventory. And then when I turn the water off, I'm going to also turn the brakes off of that drain. And then whatever potatoes are left will drain off to the hopper down below. And that's what I get to keep. Alright, the way we're going to do this is, as you recall, when the first egg gets laid, that very first redstone dust will get power, as you can see. So I'm going to draw off of that. So at the point when that first egg gets laid, that's when I'm going to send the power to the hopper underneath the field. Okay, so that repeater will drop power off of that first block and send power into that block. And that block being powered will power the redstone dust underneath it. So then we'll just make a line from that. And same deal as before. Both of these hoppers are going to be facing to the side. Only I'm going to power the top hopper this time, because I want that to have the brakes on it, so that when that has power, anything that gets drained will just sit on top of that half slab. So picture that being a potato. And then when this hopper gets drained again, that power will be turned off, and then that'll allow the drain to drain, do its drainy thing, and then that's how I get whatever potatoes are left over. And then that just leads us to our last step. We need to build a coop over this hopper. I choose to put a carpet on top of that hopper, and that just keeps that chicken from glitching down into it. I don't know that that's a big deal, but it bugs me, so There it goes. And then we'll just make a 2-high glass container. Again, glass just so you can see them because it looks cool. And in your survival world, you'll just throw eggs in there until you get a chicken hatch. And then he'll grow up and then he'll start doing what he needs to do. And normally I put a glowstone block above that to seal him off and light him up. And that is the completed project. This is in my survival world. You're looking at a carrot farm. And right next to it is a potato farm. And they're both drawing off the same egg timer. And the clicking you hear is I've attached that hopper underneath to a dispenser, which will send that off to an item sorter, rather than having to go down there and empty that chest out all the time. And then that's how it works. I hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you give it a try. Thank you again for watching. I'm Alpha Mike 1. We'll see you next time.